Hey everybody, welcome to Modifying and Editing Objects, Part 1. The first tool I want to look at is the 2D Reshape tool. So I'm going to highlight my object here, and then I'm going to go select the 2D Reshape tool, which is in the Basic Tool palette right here. This allows me to modify polygons and polylines. So watch what happened to my object when I selected the 2D Reshape tool. All of these reshape handles appear. I'm going to go to the first mode here, and the first mode moves the handles of the selected objects. So again, watch what happens when I move my cursor over one of the corner points. I get this four-way arrow, and when I click, I can drag the corner wherever I want to. And notice that the line on either side of the corner highlights red, indicating that it's going to move. If I choose one of the midpoint ones, I still get the four-way arrow, but this time I can move the object this way. So this is a pretty cool way to reshape your objects. The next mode is pretty cool. This allows me to change the type of vertices in the object, and I can do it for all of them, or I can just do it one at a time. So I'm going to choose to change to a Bezier control point. And remember, Bezier control points creates a curve that does not touch the corner handle. So I've got the change vertex mode here activated, and the second mode, Bezier control point mode, selected here. Watch what happens when I go to a corner point. I get a different reshape cursor. I got the two arrows in a circle and some crosshairs in the middle. And when I click on the corner, I get a curve. I can go over here, change the corner, change the corner. So you can get some pretty interesting shapes this way. If I want to have the curve go through my handle, I can change the vertex to a cubit spline point. So here we go. I wait for the reshape cursor, or the change cursor, and I can make a curve. If I want to go back to a corner, I can choose mode number 1, and I go back to a corner. The last mode I want to look at is the fillet point mode. This changes each vertex to a fillet or a roundover. You need to set the fillet preference. Let's change this to 4 inches. Click OK. And now when I click on a vertex, I get a 4-inch radius. I can go back and change the other ones. So you can keep modifying these until you get the shape you like. The next tool I want to look at is the split tool. So I'm going to keep my object highlighted, and I'm going to activate the split tool, which is also in the basic tool palette. And the two modes I want to look at are the second two modes. So the first mode is split by line. I draw a cutting line to split the objects intersecting with the line. First click starts the line. My object highlights in red, indicating that it's being modified. And my second click ends the cutting line. Now, it looks like I still have one object there, but I'm going to deselect them both and then just select this half. And notice I have two parts. This is pretty handy. They're both open polylines. If I want to close them, I can use the Object Info palette. That's a closed polyline now, or an open polyline. The next mode I want to look at, I'm just going to draw another polygon here quickly. No rhyme or reason, just kind of clicking around. Is to go back to the, I'm going to highlight my object, go back to the split tool, and then it is the split tool in the line trim mode. This is really handy as well. So click once to start the line, click again to finish the cutting line. And now watch, if I move my little cursor, which is now my little chooser finger, I get black arrow on this side. If I move it over to this side of the line, the left side of the line, the arrow follows. The black arrow indicates which side I want to keep. I want to keep this side. And there we go. I've split my object. If I want to close it, again, I can go to the Object Info palette and close my polygon. Next tool I want to look at is the trim tool, which is this object right here. So I'm going to put a few more objects on my page here. Do this. So the trim tool is pretty handy. It allows you to trim something past an intersection. So if I want to trim this part of the line right here, where it's past where it's intersected here, I click on that part of the line and it just trims that. So this only works on objects that are intersecting with each other. If I want to trim this part of the line, or this part of the line, or that part of the object where it's intersecting. So this is a great way also to intersect or to modify your objects. Say I wanted to create an angle here. I could use a chamfer tool, I could use something else, or I could draw a line and use a trim tool, trim tool, trim tool. Now these still are separate objects. I would need to compose them to create one model. Or excuse me, to create one object, one polygon. But it's a pretty fast way to make modifications to your object. The next tool I want to look at is the fillet tool. So the fillet tool, think of the fillet tool, it's in the basic tool palette as well. And I'm only going to be interested in the fillet and trim mode. This basically creates a roundover. You set the fillet radius preferences. It's 4 inches because that's what we set it for before, but let's change it to 3. You click on one side, you click on the other side of the corner, and the roundover is created, or the fillet is created. Boink, 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 boink. Pretty slick. The next tool works very much like the fillet tool. It's a chamfer tool. I'm going to get another object here. And the chamfer tool is right next to the fillet tool, and it works in pretty much the same manner. We want to use the same mode, the third mode, and here we have some preferences. We can either choose the first and second line, or we can choose the first line and angle, or we can choose the chamfer length line. So let's try first and second line. So my first line will be, let's call it 4 inches, and the second line will be 6 inches. Again, these are just arbitrary. Click OK. So now it's important the order in which you click. I want this to be my first line, and this to be my second line. And there's my chamfer. First line, second line. If I want to use first line at an angle, I choose the first line and then whatever angle I want it to be. Again, something arbitrary. First line and angle. So you have a lot of control over the type of chamfer that you can set. And then lastly, if you want a certain chamfer line length for a corner, let's say I want it to be 5 inches, you got to click both lines for the corner, and it automatically will create a chamfer. You do that unconstrained. That's 5 inches long. That is the end of modifying and editing objects, part 1. We'll continue on with part 2.